Alright, our next session here in Adobe Illustrator is about creating shapes using the shape tools. We haven't done that yet, and you need to know how to do that to be able to make your own illustrations. And so let's take a look at how all that's going to happen. First of all, I want to show you this. When you're done with today's assignment, it's not going to look like much. It's just a matter of creating some shapes, and it doesn't really matter what color they are, or it really doesn't matter how big they are. It's going to look something like this when you're done. Now when you start off, you're going to open up an artboard. It's going to look like this. It has a list of the things that I would like for you to create down the left-hand side, and we're just going to work our way through them, and we're going to go pretty fast. Now this file, and I'm going to go ahead and close this one that's done, and I'll close this copy as well. When you're in Adobe Illustrator, the file that you need is located here. If you go to File, you go to Open, you get to Computer, you go to Drive L, the course's drive. And then you will look inside your class period here and go to Assignments, Adobe Illustrator, and this is the Making Shapes. It's session number 5, Making Shapes, and it says Creating Shapes right there. That's the guy. Alright, so you're going to open that up, and we're ready to roll. Now, I'm going to go fast. The line tool is right over here. It's the line segment tool. Keyboard shortcut is the backslash. And if I just click that tool and click and drag, it makes a line segment. Now, you can change the color of that. You can use the stroke box down here and double click, and you can make that any color that you want. You can make it thicker if you want to up here on the stroke setting. And I might also show you one other thing. If you ever run into a situation where you need this, you can come way over to the right to what's called the stroke panel, and you can add arrowheads. Now, you know, whether or not you need arrowheads, who knows, but in certain diagrams, illustrations, situations, you might need an arrowhead. Now the arrowheads can be scaled. If they look like they're way too big when you put them on there, below each arrowhead setting there's a scale scale setting, a scale button, and you can scale them down, and you can add arrowheads to either end of the line. There's a variety of styles of arrowheads, so you can kind of pick what you want as far as that goes. So you don't have to add arrowheads to the line today, but it was one of the little things that I wanted to show you about where it is. It's over here on the stroke panel. Alright, now as we proceed along here, the other tools that are not closed paths here are the arc tool and the spiral tool. And so, and here's how you're going to know. When you look at a tool in Adobe Illustrator, if it has that little white mark in the bottom corner, you know that if you click your mouse and hold, there are other tools available there. Now we're not doing all of these today. Here's how the arc tool works. You just select the arc tool, click, drag, and it just draws a curved line like that. That's the arc tool. If I go back and click and hold and get the spiral tool, I can click, drag, and it creates a spiral like that. Alright, so you know we've got those three tools, and if you really want to, you could drag these little labels over and put them next to the things that you made. That's really kind of up to you. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. Alright, next up, the rectangle tool. Alright, well the rectangle tool, again, this is the same deal. This, you know, this tool right here, the rectangle tool, if you click and hold, it has several tools under it that we're going to use here, and we'll just start off with a rectangle. I'm just going to click, drag, and I've got a rectangle. Simple as that. Now you can control the color like we do, like we've always done. You know, you can come down here to the stroke and the fill box, and this is filled with black, and again you could change that to some other color. You could double click the stroke box down there and give it a stroke and make the stroke thicker if you want to have a stroke on there. I didn't get the color that I wanted. There we go. But that, you know, the coloring is really up to you today. It's more about knowing how to make these shapes. The next thing on the list is a perfect square. Alright, well to make a perfect square you use the rectangle tool, but you hold the shift key while you are drawing. That's the trick to this. Hold down the shift key while you're drawing. It will lock it in to make it a perfect square. Alright, the next thing we're going to draw is a rounded rectangle. That's right, if you click and hold on the rectangle tool, rounded rectangle is the next one down. So I'll take that tool, and as I click and drag, I do want to show you one thing. While you are dragging, if you tap the up arrow repeatedly, you see what's happening? It's rounding the corners more and more. Now if I click the down arrow repeatedly, and I'm talking about on the keyboard, I'm tapping the down arrow on the keyboard, it's making the corners less round, and in fact I can tap that until it turns into a regular old rectangle if you really wanted to, but what would be the point of doing a rounded rectangle if you're going to not have rounded corners. All right, so I'm just going to leave it about like that, and that will work. Okay, that's a rounded rectangle, and remember that little trick about tapping the up arrow or the down arrow on the keyboard. All right, the next tool is an ellipse. All right, well, simple enough here. Ellipse draws ovals and things like that, so I'm just going to draw an oval. Good enough. The next thing is a perfect circle. All right, for a perfect circle, it's like the perfect square. If you take the ellipse tool, hold the shift key, and then draw it, it locks it into being a perfect circle. You can rearrange these with your black arrow tool anytime you need to. They can be whatever size and arrangement that you want. For today, it doesn't matter. So holding the shift key again is that locking in the proportions, and it makes it a perfect circle. All right, next up is a triangle. We're going to do a triangle today like this. There are other ways to do a triangle, but we're going to do it like this today. Click and hold on this. I started off with a rectangle tool and I've worked my way down. I'll go to the Polygon tool. Now when I click and I begin dragging on the artboard, it's not making a triangle. But again, it's kind of like that rounded rectangle that we did. If I tap the down arrow on the keyboard while I'm dragging, I can't let go of the mouse. I got to do this while I'm dragging. I just tap the down arrow. It's a two-handed keyboard mouse combination. Tap the down arrow until I have 3 sides and then let go, and there, we've got a triangle. So this tapping of either up or down arrow defines the number of sides when you are using the Polygon tool. So on this next one it says I want to make a pentagon. Well, okay, I'll click and start dragging. It's set like I left it. I left it on triangle with 3 sides. So I'll just tap up, up, and I've got a pentagon. There we go. All right, if I want to do a hexagon with 6 sides, I'll click and start dragging. I'll tap the up arrow one time on the keyboard, and I've got a hexagon. An octagon, I'll click and start dragging. I'll tap the up arrow twice. That gives me an 8-sided figure. An octagon, I've got it. All right, now the next in the series here are these stars: 5 points, 4 points, 6 points. All right, well, again, back to this same tool, and this is all hiding under the rectangle tool. You click and hold, and I'm going to come down here to the star tool. Got it. All right, now to begin with, if I just click and drag, it's going to draw kind of the typical 5-pointed star. Okay, so that takes care of that. I've got a 5-pointed star. The next one's a 4-pointed star. Well, similar to what I did with the Polygon tool, I'll click and begin dragging, but if I tap the down arrow, it takes a point away. All right, it changes it from 5 points to 4 points, and I wind up with this kind of a shape right here. Now the next one's a 6-pointed star, so if I click and I begin to drag, and again I have to do this keyboard arrow thing while I'm still dragging out the star. I tap the up arrow, and I now have a 6-pointed star. And then the last one says a star of your choice. Well, I want you to see that if you tap, 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 you can have as many points as you want on that star. Now, I might make the outline of that a little less thick because the outline is kind of overpowering that shape now. And see, you see the shape I got. I don't even know how many points that is, but it's a lot. All right, so it's the tapping the up and down arrow while you're drawing the shape. We'll do that. All right, here's our last one on the list. It's the Blob Brush. The Blob Brush is located right here on the toolbar. It's just there's a regular paintbrush tool, which isn't a bad one to know about, but I'm going to show you the Blob Brush right now, and I'll show you what it's kind of useful, kind of cool in the things that it does. All right, so I'm just going to take the Blob Brush here. And first of all, the brush you can make the brush bigger or smaller just like you do in Photoshop. With the left bracket and right bracket keys on the keyboard, you can make that brush bigger or smaller. All right, and here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to kind of brush kind of a semicircular, and I'm just going to keep, I'm dragging this, and I'm just painting. All right, so I paint in that little spot that I missed. And then I'm going to make like a jellyfish. I'm going to make this kind of hang down like this, and these are kind of like tentacles hanging down off of a jellyfish. And it doesn't matter that much what you make today. You just kind of work with the blob brush a little bit. Now here's what's a little different about that. If I take the black arrow and select it, it's all one piece. Right? Even though I actually, I kind of made it separate. I made the top part of it, and then I brushed in those blobs that are hanging down. It's all one piece, and I could come down here to the fill box, and I could change its color if I wanted to, and I could go to the outline box here, and I could give it an outline if I wanted to, and I could make that outline thicker. So that Blob Brush kind of has some freehand drawing capabilities to it a little bit, but you still get some of the benefits of being able to fill it and stroke it, and it can make some pretty good things when you use your imagination a little bit. All right, so I have worked my way through this entire list. All the shapes are made, and again, I know it doesn't look like very much, but it's a matter of kind of practicing this and knowing where the tools are and knowing how to do it, because without being able to create these shapes, you won't get very far with creating illustrations. So that's it for this one. Now you would have to save this on your network drive, do a file and do a save as, and you save it on drive H. And we're just going to keep that same name. It's called Creating Shapes, so just keep that name and save that on drive H. But then remember, you've got to drag it and drop it from your network drive, from drive H, into your turn-in folder on drive L. All right, folks, that's the end of that little demo. So it's time for you to go to it.